Always been the center of attention. In her youth, she was the girl every boy wanted to date, and every girl wanted to befriend. Time had passed, and now in her late 42s, Alice's youthful beauty had given way to a more mature allure. Yet in her mind, she was still that irresistible young woman who could turn heads with just a smile. Every morning, Alice would spend hours in front of her vanity mirror, carefully applying makeup and styling her hair. She'd pull on tight dresses that accentuated her figure and high heels that added to her height. Her closet was filled with clothes that were more suited for a woman half her age, but Alice saw no reason to change her style. To her, she was still the epitome of youth and desirability. Alice's confidence knew no bounds. She would saunter into her favorite cafe, a place frequented by younger crowds, with the air of a queen entering her court. She flirted shamelessly with the baristas, all of whom were in their 20s. She was convinced that they were enthralled by her charms, mistaking their polite smiles and courteous service for genuine interest. One day, Alice noticed a handsome man sitting alone at a corner table. He was probably in his early 32s, with dark hair and a brooding expression. Without a second thought, Alice walked over, her heels clicking on the tiled floor, and sat down across from him. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, flashing her most radiant smile. The man looked up, slightly taken aback. Sure," he replied, a bit hesitant. Alice launched into a lively conversation, regaling him with stories from her youth, peppered with hints of her supposed conquests and adventures. She leaned forward, touching his hand occasionally, convinced that he was hanging on her every word. As the conversation went on, the man's initial surprise faded, replaced by a polite but distant demeanor. Alice, oblivious to his growing discomfort, continued to flirt, laughing loudly and tossing her hair. She was certain that any moment now, he would ask for her number. Finally, the man glanced at his watch and stood up. "It was nice talking to you, Alice, but I have to go. Have a good day." Alice watched him leave, a small frown creasing her forehead. She couldn't understand why he hadn't been more captivated by her. Surely he had felt the same chemistry she did. Undeterred, Alice turned her attention to a group of young men at another table. She walked over, her confidence undiminished, and introduced herself with the same vivacity. They exchanged awkward glances but allowed her to join them, more out of pity than interest. As the days turned into weeks, Alice's behavior became a familiar sight at the cafe. Regular patrons would whisper and chuckle, wondering if she would ever realize that her time had passed. But Alice remained blissfully ignorant, her delusions wrapping her in a bubble of eternal youth and desirability. One evening, after yet another fruitless attempt to charm a young man, Alice sat alone at her table, nursing her coffee. She looked around the cafe, filled with the laughter and chatter of a younger generation, and for a brief moment a flicker of doubt crossed her mind. But she quickly brushed it aside, convinced that the problem wasn't her, but them. "They just don't know what they're missing," she thought to herself, standing up and straightening her dress. "Tomorrow is another day, and there's always someone new to meet." And with that, Alice left the cafe, her head held high, still believing that she could get any man she wanted.